Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2010 Korean crime horror thriller film, I Saw the Devil. Now, this is one of those films that I definitely saw the acclaim that it received, but because it was a foreign film, I just kind of put off watching it for a long time. And I have to be honest, folks. I thought this was absolutely phenomenal. I thought this was a really great film. And before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on this amazing movie, I would like to give a special shout out to Ryan for requesting this review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you'd like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. Link to both is in the video description down below, and I will try to get your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, I Saw the Devil is one hell of a ride. It's a wild ride of a movie. It's incredibly intense, but man, is it good. It's directed by Kim Jee-woon. And Kim Jee-woon's direction in this is absolutely awe-inspiring. This is some really awesome directing. There's shots in this that are just absolutely jaw-dropping in terms of their skill and their scope. The way that he utilizes movement of the camera in particular is mesmerizing. It really is. There's just simple shots of showcasing the killer's lair, or like the opening a scene, which is just establishing the setting, which is this abandoned road in the middle of the winter, that really genuinely make your jaw drop. The direction and cinematography in this is second to none. It really is. It's some of the most impressive and just beautiful looking cinematography and direction that you'll see in honestly anything. And not just from the decade that this film was released in, but just in general. Like, it really is that good. And it helps a film that is so intense when it comes to its subject matter, with a serial killer who's demented, who is kidnapping young women and sexually assaulting them and killing them brutally. It makes a film that has some really violent, vicious scenes in it into something that is a genuine work of art because of how the shots are structured and how they're showcased throughout the film. There's a cab sequence which involves the killer and another would-be killer, and this unsuspecting victim who is giving them a ride. And the way that that entire sequence is shot is just absolute sheer perfection to me. When it comes to the camera angles, when it comes to the movement, it honestly is as out of control and as crazy as the entire sequence is when it comes to the structure of it and what's contained within it. But it's controlled chaos. And I've said this numerous times when it comes to my thoughts on other films and other directors. When a director is able to execute controlled chaos, it's just it's chef's kiss stuff for me. And that sequence is just one of many throughout this film that features those controlled elements of chaos when it comes to the film's visual style and its overall appearance. Uh, the pans, the zooms, they're all excellent. There are even moments where it's quite eye-catching when it comes to its wide shots or its up-close shots. Uh, he even does a great job at shooting a handful of fight scenes or chase sequences. They are also really great and have some really superb structure to them. So yeah, it's a film that features some absolutely tremendous direction, and his direction is a big part of why this film works as well as it does. I don't think it would be as good, and I don't think it would work as well as it does, or be as well received without this direction. This is just a really great film from a directing standpoint. The script by Park Hoon Jung, I, for the most part, think is also pretty great. I think there's some aspects of it that are a little lacking. For one, there's some questionable decisions by the lead that kind of drag things out that are kind of like really, man, like I get it, you're trying to give this killer a taste of his own medicine, but you're kind of taking it too far and to the point where it's getting a little bit incredulous. But other than that, like I think it's a really solid script with a good hook. I think it starts out in a very intense fashion with this very harrowing encounter with this serial killer and this victim. He seems like he's unassuming at the start. He's just a school bus driver. He's just trying to help this girl out who's stuck on the side of the road. Jang Ju-hun, and she encounters this guy named Jang Kyun-chul, and she initially was like, "Nah, I'm okay. I don't need your help." And he's not taking no for an answer, and literally busts through her windshield to get to her and kidnap her, assault her, brutally beat her, and then dismember her. But this killer, he killed the wrong girl because this girl, it was the girlfriend of this man uh, named Kim Soo-hyun, who is an agent in the National Intelligence Service. So he basically killed the girlfriend of a secret agent. And this guy, like, he's like deep in the CIA, or not the CIA, but you know the Korean version of the CIA, Central Intelligence, and he basically fucked with the wrong guy, and so this guy, because of the fact that he's been given permission from the actual police and other higher ups, makes the killer's life a living hell. And he turns things around and he becomes the one that's stalking and harassing and tormenting the killer. And I really like that twist. I really like that decision by the writer. Okay, you know, it's another serial killer movie with a serial killer, and he's going up against a cop or a CIA agent or an intelligence agent who's trying to stop him. What if the intelligence agent is the one that's hunting the killer and he's intimidating the killer, and the killer is being brutally beaten and stalked by the intelligence agent? And it goes to just insane lengths because the intelligence agent, like, he's putting a tracker on the killer, and he's tracking the killer everywhere. So, and when the killer thinks that he's safe, he just beats the crap out of him and hurts him and tortures him and then leaves him somewhere so he can, you know, start it all over again. Is he trying to make this killer feel the pain that he is feeling and the father of the girl that was murdered is feeling right now? And so he's doing that by torturing the guy. And at first, it's a novel concept, but the script kind of overdoes it a little bit to the point where it becomes a little too incredulous for me. Okay, first time, all right. Finds him at his house and just beats the ever loving shit out of him and leaves him with a bunch of money, puts a tracker in him, and then continues to stalk him. He thinks that, oh, I've got this opportunity to be a pervert, you know, be a total pervert again, and be a completely sadistic killer and take out this innocent girl at this hospital that I'm being treated at. But nope, uh, the agent has a tracker on me, found out where I am, and is now going to continue to beat the shit out of me and then cut my Achilles tendon. So I think that that was effective, but then once they went into, like, the 3rd or the 4th time that he was doing this, it was like, really? Especially after he almost got shot by the killer when he located the killer at, this house that the killer was staying at, which is a house of a friend of his who happens to be a cannibal. And so he located him there, but the killer has a gun, and now he's trying to turn the tables on the intelligence agent. He's trying to go after him next, trying to hunt him, and it almost ends badly. But he finds a way to overcome uh, the cannibal, the killer, the cannibal's girlfriend, and escapes relatively unscathed. He gets a little wounded, but not anything severe. But because he took his time and didn't take the killer out, the killer's now realizing how he's being found. And so he finds a way to get rid of the tracker in his bowels. And then now he's free. And now he's deciding to really make the intelligence agent feel even more pain and torment because now he's going to focus on the girl's family, and it doesn't end well because the killer actually successfully does kill the family. The agent is not able to get there in time to stop him, and that leads to the agent becoming even more unhinged, and he essentially kidnaps the killer when he's about to give himself up to the police, takes him back to some secluded area. I think it's actually takes him back to his house of terrors, his house of torture that he utilized to torture and kill all of his victims. And so the intelligence agent, he ties up the killer into this contraption that's tied to the door of his place, and he invited the killer's family over, and they can hear him calling out, and he's trying to tell them don't open the door, and his mother opens the door, and that's what ultimately kills him. It causes this mechanism to activate that causes this guillotine to come down and cut his head off. And the last shot of the film is the intelligence agent just breaking down and crying because everything is over, and also him just finally letting loose of his emotions after bottling them up inside. And I think also realizing the gravity of what he's done and what's happened. His actions of trying to get revenge actually led to not only the girl um, not necessarily having justice, because the guy was never caught. He was never put on trial, but also it led to the death of her sister and her father, or at least her father was really disfigured and and like hurt really badly. But I don't think he lived. It looked like he was hurt bad enough that I don't think he survived. So his just never ending thirst for revenge wound up costing him in the end, and other people that knew his girlfriend, that knew his lover. Well, I think maybe it was his wife. Um, but yeah, yeah, it's one of those things where it definitely did not lead to, let's just say, a sweet ending. Very bittersweet, but I think that's effective for the kind of story that this is and the tone that the script had. It worked when it comes to things being more bittersweet in the end. But I still have to admit it was a little too much when he's just dragging things out so much in terms of his torture and, beating up the killer and then leaving him and then uh, starting things over again. And it kind of made him look like kind of a dumbass at points. You're like, What do you expect? This guy's a serial killer. Like, he's very cunning. He's very smart. Like, you're not really helping things, keeping him alive." And also, What do you think you're gonna try to gain trying to torture him? He's already crazy. He's a psychopath. He's not gonna break down. You're not gonna crack him. And there's even a really tense scene later on in the film in before the finale when the killer gets decapitated, when the killer is messing with the agent psychologically, and he's basically telling him that it's like, you're not gonna break me. Who the fuck do you think you are? Like, you're not gonna do anything. So I do like the fact that there is a certain rawness to this. There's a certain realism, but there's also a certain over the top, a bit of wild craziness to this script as well. I mean, the whole stuff with the cannibal and his home and everything that's going on with that, the extreme lengths that our main protagonist, our hero who works for the intelligence service, Kim Soo-hyun, is going to in order to get revenge for the death of his fiance. Um, and I appreciated that there were other sort of genres and other elements that were kind of thrown in there. Yeah, there's horror. There's always some very tense and generally kind of horrifying scenes. There's even some jump scare moments. Um, but it's also very much a thriller, and it's also an action film at points. There's actually some good fight choreography in a scene or two in this. So I appreciated that as well. And yeah, I thought that it was, for the most part, other than a couple moments that were a bit too incredulous, a bit too much in terms of uh uh Kim's revenge. For the most part, I thought it was a really good script. And I also appreciated that it took the less is more approach when it comes to the killer and his actions. It didn't show a lot of what he did. It showed the aftermath, or it showed a little bit, but it didn't go overboard with it to the point where it just felt like it was exploitative. So I did appreciate that as well. It could have easily gone into a different direction, showing the killer like graphically sexually assault these women and graphically murder them and graphically dismember them, but it doesn't really do that. So I appreciate that approach as well. It really leaves it up to your imagination, and in a lot of ways, that makes it scarier. That makes it more horrifying and a lot more effective. The cast I thought was really quite something else. I thought the cast was really strong. Choi Min-sik as the serial killer. He was intimidating. He was creepy. Um, but he also was believably vulnerable when it comes to the scenes when he's in pain and he's being the one that's being tortured. But he was also very cunning and very sly, and definitely played the role very well as a guy who seemed like he was two steps ahead. Despite the fact that, oh, he's injured now and he's wounded. There's no way he's gonna have as much impact. No, he still goes in and adds to his body count, and still drives the knife even further into Kim. And you could tell that this was a guy who was just one sick fuck. And sometimes those roles can be kind of difficult to pull off because you can be a little too over the top with it. But that wasn't the case here. It was very, very measured in terms of the menace, and I felt that worked very well when it comes to Choi Min-sik's performance. I thought Byung-hun was also equally as good as Kim, especially when it comes to him becoming more and more unhinged, more and more focused on uh, causing this killer all kinds of pain and torment, and how that's twisting him up inside and twisting him into something monstrous. I felt that that was a really good performance in terms of how he showcased that particular nuance for the character. The rest of the cast is fine too, like Oh San Ha is Jang in the opening scene for what she was asked to do. She did a very good job with that, especially the moment when she's begging for her life and admitting to the killer that she's pregnant and just trying to get him to let her go. Like, that was some really heart-wrenching stuff to watch, and in large part because of how authentic the performance was uh, Jang um, by the actress who played Jang Joo-yeon, Oh San-ha. Jeon Gook-hwan is the squad chief. Joo-hoon's father was also really solid, did a good job playing that particular role. Not a very complex role, not a ton of depth for the role, but he still made the role his own. Same thing for Kim Yoon-seo as Jang Se-yoon, Joo-yoon's sister, and Chun Ho-jin as the section chief O, the leader of the police. Also want to mention Choi Moo-sung as Taejo, the Kyung Chul's friend, who's also a cannibal and has a very particular taste for human meat. Um, you could tell that guy was definitely enjoying the assignment, so to speak. The scene when he is just laughing at Kim when Kim is trying to ask him like where Jang is, and he's like, oh, he's gonna go after your girl's family now. You fucked with the wrong guy, and he's just laughing and just being an all around just evil jackass. It was an effective moment, and there's a lot of moments of that character that are pretty effective because of the performance that the actor provided for that role. So those are the main performers, but pretty much everybody in this delivers some really good work when it comes to their performances. The cinematography by Lee Mo-gai is absolutely gorgeous. This is a gorgeous film, beautiful cinematography, the footage that takes place in the snow in the opening, just a work of art. So are so many other scenes, even stuff just like showcasing the bloody lair of the killer is also really well shot and really well framed from a cinematography perspective. This film is absolutely beautiful despite its grisliness. There is a shot that perfectly encapsulates this to me. It's a shot of um, Kim's fiance, Jang. It's her severed head that's floating in a lake. And there are a bunch of investigators that discover the severed head. And the way that that scene is shot of the severed head floating in the lake is absolutely gorgeous. It's a gorgeous looking shot, but it's a shot of a severed head in a lake. So, like, that's a good example of what this film provides when it comes to its visuals, when it comes to its style and its flair. It's this beautiful blending of grisly violence and just absolutely stunning and gorgeous cinematography and direction. Now, a lot of those scenes would not shine as much as they do without the right amount of editing as well, with the right approach by the editor, Nam Dong Young. Like, I think the editing in this is every bit as good as the other technical merits of it, like the cinematography and the direction, because there's a lot of shots in this that have this appearance of maybe being shot in one take, but they're not. It just looks that way because of the editing. There's a lot of scenes that are really intense and visceral, not just because of the way that they're shot, but also because of the way that they're edited. There's a lot of scenes that are very tragic and very moving. And it's not just because of the way that they're written or the way that the actors perform those scenes, but also because of the way that they're edited. So I think the editing is definitely something that adds a ton to this film. And the music by Moog, there's a lot of elements of the score that I think are quite exquisite, that are quite good, that I think really fit the film very well. especially when it comes to some of the more intense, more impactful moments, the more visceral scenes of violence, and some moments that definitely do showcase grief and other sorts of intense emotions. But there are some moments where the score is a bit too over the top. Like the scene when Jung's severed head is being discovered at the lake. The score is really bombastic and loud and epic sounding, and I don't really think that fits for the tone of the scene. And there's a couple other scenes like that where the score is just a bit too much. So I think it really could have benefited from being a little bit less bombastic, a little bit less loud and booming when it comes to its size and its scope for scenes that don't necessarily deserve that kind of composition or that kind of score. I think the less is more approach would really help some of those sequences and make them um, a little bit less glaring when it comes to them standing out from other scenes in the movie where the score is a lot more measured and a lot more in control. But despite some of those issues that I do have with the movie, which are very minor, I think that this is a genuine masterwork. Even the runtime doesn't even feel like it's that long. I didn't really feel like it drug out too long. There were a couple moments once Kim's quest for revenge got a little bit too long in the tooth, where it kind of dragged a little bit, but it did. But that's also when the killer wound up outsmarting Kim, so it didn't continue things on down that particular path too long, which was definitely something that I really appreciated. And another thing that I appreciated about the film I want to mention before I wrap things up is the really great makeup effects and some really good art direction as well when it comes to the movie and the lighting and the sound design. This film has some really great sound design when it comes to how it utilizes sound to really up the tension or provide some extra scares. Um, so yeah, I honestly thought this was incredible, and I cannot recommend it enough if you haven't seen it already. It's definitely a good one to watch during the Halloween season because it's a pretty chilling film. It's definitely has some moments that'll chill you to your bones. But man, what a fucking ride! What a wild ride of a movie. But anyway, thanks for watching my review of I Saw the Devil. And until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.